Why protecting athletes from abuse made it to German parliament. As cases began trickling out and Germany was dealing with child abuse scandal in foster homes, the time was right for the government to step in. A wave of reckoning swept across the Western sporting superpower as they confronted years of abuse suffered by athletes under the garb of training for elite sport. German political parties even committed action in the form of an independent center for safe sport in their manifestos. Why the need for an independent safe sports center outside of the sporting federation? Organized sport in Germany didn't have an existing independent external institution that could intervene in cases of accusations of abuse of young athletes, sexual, physical, and physiological. A specialized body was needed that could offer a joint external contact point with high level of expertise in counseling and intervention on discrimination and violence and ensure independence while being capable of professional understanding of the structure of force. What started this discussion? The documentary Athlete A and revelations of abuse of female gymnasts in the US had a domino effect starting 2017 after six young women, including a world champion, raised serious allegations against a trainer at a federal center in Chemnitz. An external law firm conducted an investigation which revealed 17 cases of physiological violence, body shaming, and verbal insults aside, there were serious cases of gymnasts being given high strength painkillers and injections without prescriptions while being forced to train and compete through injuries and pain. Injuries of spine were ignored chasing performance. Were other sports also guilty? A soccer player who suffered abuse, rape, and threats of something will happen if you complain from age 10 almost 30 years ago gave her testimony last October at a public hearing. The athletes' rights body, Athlete Deutschland, in a discussion in paper advocating establishing a safe sports center, quoted her in the preamble to the document as saying, I give this account and ask, do something with it. An athlete from Equestrian from a decade ago also came forward to narrate her ordeal. Zweigel, who's reported several boxing coaches in Baden-Württemberg are said to have sexually abused young female athletes when they complained to the association they are threatened. How did the authorities react? As cases began trickling out, the Germany was dealing with a child abuse scandal in foster homes. The time was right for the government to step in. The Federal Parliament Sports Committee hosted a public hearing on emotional, physical, and sexualized violence in sports in May this year. Athletes, representative survivors, official DOM were called to hearings which received wide support from professional practice academia and leading German scholars, coach association and athletes. Some federations like gymnasts, the University Sport Federation and swimming body immediately came on board. The Olympic body was initially resistant, asking for independent contact points for affected athletes to complain within the sports federation structure, and a senior member told Jogner Welt that an independent center might not be viable for organized sport with its 90,000 clubs. Organized sports should develop this expertise and not transfer the responsibility to a center. Earlier, at the government level, federal funding for the field of competitive sports was explicitly linked to self-declarations on the existence of protection and prevention concept by federation. Why are existing systems inadequate? The US gymnast scandal was criticized among the other things for being insufficiently independent and compromised in its investigative procedures earlier. Other pitfalls are familial closeness, personal relationships, and resulting conflicts of interest, unequal power and dependency relations between these entrusted to care and protection of those in authority, misunderstood loyalties for young athletes, specific socialization within the sports system, and insufficient awareness of violence and abuse, according to AD. Is sexual abuse the only form of abuse? No. AD research notes that 22% of the athletes also stated that they had experienced several forms of physiological violence in sport. This includes, for example, threats to excluded from team, requests to take weight reducing or performance enhancing substances, or repeatedly being humiliated. Almost 20% of the athletes surveyed, 21% of the men and 15% of women stated that they had experienced severe forms of physical violence in the context of sport. This means, for example, having been shaken, beaten, or strangled. What measures are being taken in other countries? The US Center for Safe Sport was established in 2017 and backed by legislation. It has authorized to respond to allegations of all forms of violence and abuse within Olympic and Paralympic sports there and was financially bolstered in fall of 2020 to increase its independence. In Japan, Human Rights Watch called for the creation of an independent center in the days leading to the Tokyo Games. After numerous cases of violence and abuse, British gymnast became known as the summer of 2020. Sally Munday, CEO of UK Sports, was open to independent ombudsman to make British federations accountable for breaches within their duty of care. After cases of violence and abuse in Swiss competitive gymnastics became public, authorities have pushed for a national contract and report setting center for abusing in sport. Thank you.